Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Each episode, you'll dive into conversations with top entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business leaders, unlocking the secrets to building profitable relationships that drive growth and success. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
All right. Welcome back to Partnership for Profits. I'm Will Brooks. I'm hosting today. I know we got our round robin of hosts that do this thing, but I'm not who you guys are here to see. Today, we have a really cool guest with us today. We've got Mike Seeley on with us. Mike, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm trying to live up to that promo, that intro. It's a very high bar.
No, man, you'll live up to it. Great. So Mike is the principal and co-founder of Spear Investigations. It's an investigation firm that works with plaintiffs' attorneys. I think, Mike, you told me before we got on, primarily with personal injury attorneys, but not limited to that. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say probably a good portion of our business, probably 85-90% is directly with personal injury attorneys. We just work on the plaintiff side. We don't do any defense work either.
So when me as a layperson, I'm not a lawyer, when I hear someone say that they are an investigator that works with lawyers, my head immediately goes to like private investigator who's like binoculars in the car, drinking coffee all night, following people around. Is that what you guys are doing? Or tell me a little bit.
That is 100% what we are not doing. My business partner and I, we are not investigators. That is not our claim to fame. Our claim to fame is on the relationships. We are set up a little bit different. We utilize licensed private investigators across the country to provide us with our services, and those services are digital. So I would love to say it was something cool like laying out all night and stake out, eating stale donuts, just like in the TV shows, but it's not like that at all. It is a digital product that's done from behind a computer. Okay. And it consists of 4 different products in the digital realm. One of those being we focus on locating former employees that can be used to testify against their former employers in litigation. They provide all types of insight into company policies, procedures, training, anything that an insider, you're like, I wish I knew somebody on the inside. This is exactly that opportunity. You can find somebody that has worked there and literally walk the halls of the company that you have a suit against. So that's about, I would say, probably 85% of our business. We also have some ancillary products too. Pardon me. We do corporate structure research. So a lot of times, different companies will have separate LLCs and partnerships, sometimes with a nefarious goal of hiding assets. So we go in and break these companies apart, separate LLCs, partnerships to identify recoverable assets, possible insurance monies, umbrella policies that may be out there to help with the recovery. We do individual deep dives. So if there's somebody on the defense, maybe an expert witness on the defense, you're like, hey, I would really like to know what this guy's about. We can dig into his past, find everything that he's ever published, put it on the internet. Hopefully, to come across the time where we can get you to he can paint himself into a corner. Maybe whenever he was a resident, he wrote a paper that said this, and now he's saying that. So that would be useful information for a plaintiff attorney. And the fourth thing that we do is social media scraping. So we collect social media data in a court admissible format. So you don't have to hold up your cell phone in court and say, hey, I've got this cool screenshot here, which could easily be faked. And you guys are confirming whether those are the four kind of products that we focus on. Okay, cool. And there's some subsets of those as well too, but that's for the main thing. So you're working with lawyers all over the country as well. We work coast to coast. I'm based in Texas. My business partner is based right outside of Atlanta, Connor McDuffie. But we cover firms from east to west and north to south. Okay, interesting. Very cool. So talk to me a little bit about, Mike, about like why because when I think of personal injury case, like I'm not thinking about interviewing former employees at a business. Like what's the connectivity there with what you guys like? What's the need for interviewing or researching or getting? I guess you're talking to former employees of a business. Right. How does that connect to a personal injury case? Like what's the benefit for the plaintiff side to get that information? goes back a little bit to the process. The process is actually creating a list. So you give us, an attorney will give us the job titles that he wants to focus on. Say this is a trucking case. Well, I'm looking for truck drivers. I'm looking for supervisors. I'm looking for dispatchers, people that work in maintenance. I'm not necessarily interested in people that work in the front office.
Sure.
Maybe you are, but probably not. So we take that list that's tailor-made by the attorney, and we find just the people that you're looking for. So we search by job titles, tenure, and their time with the company. So that's all included in the list, and a verified contact information. So we hand that list over to the attorney. They can make those calls if they want to, if they have the resources. A lot of people don't want to. I know it probably comes as a shocker, but not everybody wants to talk to an attorney over the phone. Mine. People think they're in trouble. So we act as that go-between between the law firm and these former employees. They put that together. We hand them the list. You can make the calls. We can make the calls on your behalf. You provide us with 5 to 10 questions you want worked into a conversation. And we have people that are trained to interview people. They have a very soft approach, and they relate to these people, and so they don't feel threatened. The ultimate goal at the end of these interviews is for them to agree to be contacted by the attorney or a member of their team.
Okay. And so the information that you're looking for from these people, is it like, are you trying to find out, like, I guess, what are the training, if it's a trucking, right? You're like, what are the safety training that you guys have in place?
Absolutely.
What are you guys not doing that maybe they say they are doing? What kind of the information?
That's exactly right. It could be as simple as inconsistencies. We've done cases where, hey, half of the people that we talked to said they were trained this way, and half of the people said they were trained that way. Well, what is the difference? Why are you only training some people? Shouldn't there be some consistency along the way? These people are going, they're being trained along kind of industry guidelines. Well, these people received a different kind of training, or you received this safety manual and you did not. Some people were drug tested and some people weren't. So it's the variety of people that you get and the answers that you get back. And so we want to go ahead. Sorry.
It seems like you're kind of confirming or just finding confirmation on either negligence or on liability. Is that it's just kind of a double layer of proving
that's a big part of it. We can also, they can also tell us about somebody that they worked with. Maybe somebody was in an accident and they, had witnessed them behaving oddly, or we did one where, they were like, guy refused to take a drug test after an accident and walked off the job, and 2 weeks later they hired him back, and so stuff like that would be fuzzy in maybe an employment record. But if you had a firsthand witness to this, and then they give some insight on how the company kind of did their business, maybe this was something they did consistently. So you kind of start to paint that picture as well.
Okay. So what are a lot of lawyers overlooking the gold mine that might be interviewing former employees in an investigation? Is that overlooked a lot, or is that something?
It's obviously it's my business. I want people to use this service. A lot of people don't know it exists. Right. As soon as we go to a lot of conferences and we do things like the podcast here. As soon as we start talking about it, you can see people that get it and understand it, and they're like, they think of something. And it might have been something that came from their past, maybe something that they did 2 years ago. Maybe it took a long time to discover. But the people that kind of believe in it and subscribe to using our services, they really believe in it. You may not need us for all of your cases. It may be a once a year or twice a year thing. Like some of our busiest customers are using us, 6, 7, 8 times a year. I mean, I wish they would use us once a week, but it's kind of hard to pick and choose those cases.
For sure. So how often does like when you're talking to former employees, how often does like confidentiality agreements and things like that are not, those kind of agreements that people sign maybe when they're hired or when they're let go or when they leave, how often does that come into play? And then second to that is how are you guys convincing former employees to kind of open up about sensitive details
Sure.
that from their office? Like, what's the strategy behind that?
Yeah, those are both great questions. Asking about the NDA and employment agreements are something that we typically start off the conversation with. If they have that, we kind of put a red check mark by their name, and we circle back to the law firm about how
Okay.
they'd like to proceed. But usually that's where that conversation stops.
Okay.
We don't want to get
Makes
them in
sense.
any type of trouble.
Sure.
But the second part of that is people that we're usually speaking with are not usually protected by employment agreements or NDAs. These are hourly employees, usually people that we're not gaining the people that are in the C-suite. I mean, occasionally we do, but many times kind of the highest level we may go is maybe an engineer in like a products liability case, and so you have to be careful about what you ask them. But we handle that very sensitively. And that's literally one of the first questions that we ask. Hey, do you have anything like this? And if they do, it's check this guy's name. Hey, thank you for your time, and we'll move along. A typical search for us returns, a large company, I would say somewhere in the name of 35 to 45 names, depending on how big the entity is. You could be in a very small mom and pop organization where everybody's in the family. So, that kind of, we have to temper the results when we talk to attorneys about it.
So if you do find somebody that does have like an NDA or confidentiality agreement and they don't tell you and they give you all that information, then it's found out after the fact, I'm guessing that's just something you just can't use that information.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I think that gets us into a murky legal area then. Yeah. And, like you said earlier, when you kicked off the show, we're talking here like, I'm not an attorney. That's not for me to make that call.
Right.
That's why we don't ever want to, muddle the waters or create any fatigue with these people where they are aggravated and, maybe we've ruined their opportunity to speak with the attorney. We don't want to ask a certain question in certain ways and, create an adversarial relationship. That would be, and that's what we strive to do. So I think we have a pretty good record of delivering on that.
So are you working on a lot of trucking cases? Is it a lot of trucking cases or is it vary?
Trucking cases, premise liability, we've had some good success on those cases as well. I mean, it has to be the right case for premise liability. It really just depends on the damages, what they're seeking. You won't see us doing a case on a, $25,000 policy limits case usually. They kind of bring us in on some of the kind of larger, bigger ticket cases out there. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But we certainly have the capacity to work on anything that somebody might need.
Okay.
And utilize our other products as well too for that.
So if it sounds like a lot of the folks that you guys are looking for and talking to are, like you said, they're hourly employees. They're sure. Not C-suite people. Those kinds of people, and I'm not saying anything negative about people that are working hourly jobs, but they may not have the digital footprint necessarily that a lot of other people will have. It seems like they might be in some cases difficult to find. What's when it is difficult to find somebody. You were telling me a little story before we got started about somebody that was exceedingly difficult to find, and I'd love for you to share that with the audience. But just kind of curious, kind of what goes into tracking these people down.
I'll say this too. So we had an attorney call me, a new contact. I didn't know this gentleman. He was referred to me by another client. Called me up and said, "Hey, we had a client. He's in California." He said, "I think the client he fled to Mexico, and we need to find this gentleman." And I was like, "Well, let me see what we can do." I mean, I've never really got a call to find someone in Mexico, and this is kind of one of the ancillary products I was kind of discussing earlier too. It's not kind of one of our. This is not on the brochure, but it's definitely something that we can handle.
Sure.
So it reached out to us and said, "Hey, can you find this gentleman? We believe he's in this area of Mexico." And so I talked to our investigator and said, "Hey, what are your resources like down there? Is this something you can accomplish?" He's like, "Well, give me a couple of days." So they gave him a couple of days. And he said, "Yeah, I think we found somebody that can track this guy down." And he ended up finding this gentleman in a interior jungle village in Mexico, like no cell phone service, no electricity, and no no phone system, obviously. So he found this guy, and his address was a description of where he lived. So no street address. It was just a description. And I had to go back to the attorney, and he was like, "Hey, are you sure this is right?" And I said, "I was told this was 100% right. If you put this on an envelope and put the proper postage on it, it will eventually get to this gentleman with this description." So that was unusual. That's something that we don't normally do, but we can do. And it's great. It's good to be able to provide those types of other services. We're really in the business of helping attorneys win.
Yeah,
we want you to win, and
Man.
we like to fight the good fight. We're a very small part of it, but we still want to be part of it.
Talk about off the grid, man. That's going off the grid.
For sure.
Makes you wonder what that guy had to hide. What's he running from?
They had got without going into too much detail, they just needed the signature from him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, he just needed to sign something. So really unusual.
But he was living, hang a right at the banana bush, and then
that sounds a lot like where I grew up, only in kind of a rural area. See the red barn, take a right there. That sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I remember when we used to give directions like that before we had
100%.
Yes. Yeah, right on. That's crazy. I love that. What kind of impact can like one interview with one employee have on the outcome of a case?
I think that's another good question, because it only takes one, right? Like if you find the right person, they can provide that aha moment. Every trial that's on TV that ends in a 1 hour episode, that's not really how things work.
Of course.
But there could be somebody there where he could uncover something that nobody thought of. That's why we like to, get it up to a certain point, where they agree to speak to the attorney, which is the goals of the interview, is to get them to a point where they say, "Yes, I want to be contacted by an attorney." And once they get to that, we, handle them very carefully. We don't want to create any fatigue with them by, pushing them or asking them for too much. That's kind of a hot lead. I want to turn that over to the legal firm immediately. And some of them want it right there. They're like, "Hey, here's my number. If you get something good, text me. I'm going to drop what I have and get on the phone with this person." And that's really what we try to encourage. We're like, "Hey, don't let this guy think about this for 2 weeks. If you have the opportunity and he's willing to talk, I think he's got something good for you."
Lock him down, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. So talk to me a little bit more about the social media angle, as far as researching that and what you guys are, the scraping of social media. What kind of things will come into play from a social media post? Is it video? Is it photographs? Is it text that people are putting out? Is it all three?
It could be anything. It could be anything. It could be just the presence of their social media. Different social media platforms that they're on. Maybe there's a way to, there's an opportunity to prove that they were, scrolling Facebook while they were driving a truck, or something like that, something terrible like that. Or they posted a picture, saying, "Hey, I've done this," or "I've done that." So the social media aspect is, it's just for us to gather. We don't really try to put any judgment on that.
Sure.
We want to give it to the attorney and his team or her team and let them kind of decide, "Hey, this is what we're looking for. We would like to see something like this. Can you look and see if there's something like this out there available?" And deliver that to them as well.
So, and you guys are oftentimes you guys are handling you got folks that are handling the interviews with these people as opposed to the actual lawyers doing that. That's
right.
So
it's nice because it's fully customized, right? You give me the questions. You give us our marching orders. Hey,
okay,
this, and this, and this. Whatever, give me a brief. What we like to cover the interviewer is a brief synopsis of the case for him to have some background. He's very skilled and calm, and he's endearing to people. So people open up and talk to him more so than they would maybe even me or my business partner. A couple of people that we use for the interviews, they provide a great service. And it's really a unique skill that, I mean, I can get on a podcast, I can talk to people at a conference, I can go have a cocktail with somebody, but I can't do the interview. I can't do the interview part of it. It's not something that I can do. But thankfully, we do have somebody that can do it.
That's awesome. Very cool. So let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So, you got your experience in legal funding and the medical device industry. How does that lead into doing what you're doing now? Like I'm looking. I mean, the legal funding. I see some connective tissue to what you're doing there, but I'm just kind of curious what kind of got you into this business and working in this field. It's a very specific and interesting kind of area.
It is. It is. It's an unusual career path. I started off. I was in medical sales for 20 years. I sold spinal implants and pain pumps. So what that consisted of me wearing really comfortable tennis shoes and scrubs in the OR every day, starting very early. Surgeons start very early. So it started off early in the morning at the hospital, and I was there to facilitate the instrumentation. That had various degrees of complex to it. Sometimes I would stand in the back behind a surgical tray. I'm not touching anything, but I am in, surgeon's hat, mask, scrubs, and have a laser pointer, and I'm pointing at the instrumentation, telling them how to put it together. It's kind of like an erector set. Hey, pick up this screwdriver, put this handle on it. This is how this works. This is what he's going to ask for next. Be ready, because he doesn't want to wait around when he says, "Give me the awl" or "Give me the punch." It's there and ready. So so I have a lot of empathy for people that are, enduring these, quite frankly, difficult surgeries.
Sure.
And I enjoy being a part of that and being able to help these people with the technology that I carried around in my bag every day. I had my own distributorship for several years where I sold various spinal implants, orthobiologics, and it was kind of up and down. Some days it was like drinking out of a water hose, and some days it was like a dripping faucet.
Right.
So I had a recruiter call me kind of at the last one time at one of these valleys and asked me, "Hey, have you ever thought about getting into the legal field?" He's like, "I have somebody that's looking for a funding company that's looking for somebody that has a background in medical sales and has relationships with surgeons." So I took a look at it and took a leap of faith, and I realized attorneys are a lot of fun. They're a lot more fun than surgeons. I don't like really working for surgeons, and I haven't really liked it since about 20 years ago. So the timing was right. I went to work for a small company that was a startup in the legal funding field, and I really liked it. And I liked working for the people. This is a very, very old joke, but attorneys have this terrible stigma around them. And I did too whenever I came in. I thought I believed all the stereotypes and I believed all the jokes, but that is so untrue. The attorneys that we deal with, man, these guys fight hard for their clients, and these people have suffered great injustices to be injured. And I respect the hell out of that, to be quite frankly.
I agree 100%, man. Mike, we work with primarily lawyers as well. Sure. And we've been doing that. I've been working with them for the last almost 4 years now, and I've had the same experience. These guys are great people. They really care a lot about the people that they're representing. They're not just out there trying to grab as much money as possible. I mean, yes, they are want to make money, and they want to make money for their clients, but I mean, there's so much more empathy from these guys than I think anyone gives them credit for. So
I tell you what, I've got to see both sides of it, and I've got to see more empathy from attorneys than I have from the actual surgeons doing this. And they gained a great deal of my respect. And I was like, hey, I want to be a small part of this. That's why we started this business. We own it together. My partner and I, Connor McDuffie, we own this business together. We work with who we want to work with. And, very rarely do we come across somebody that's not a good person.
Right.
But for the most part, we work with people and we help attorneys win. And that's why that's why we're in this business. Yes, we make a profit doing it as well. But I also go home at the end of the day and I have a great feeling about what I've accomplished and the contributions I've made to various cases out there.
That's awesome, man. I love to hear that. So from legal funding into the investigation side, like what's the
Right.
transition there? Where did the idea come from? You know,
Making connections at conferences. I'm a big believer in all ships kind of rising under a high tide, and I create relationships with my other legal service provider partners out there in the field. I want to help them where there's a possibility. There was somebody that was doing something similar in the marketplace. My business partner and I looked at that and thought, hey, there's an opportunity to do that better. And so we jumped in about almost 3 years ago and started this company from scratch. I created the logo, created the messaging, created every single little bit of it on our own, and bootstrapped the whole thing. We got a vote of confidence right out of the jump from some attorneys that said, hey, I like this. Would you like for us to invest some money in it? And I was like, I have no idea where to even spend your money. I wish they would call me now. I have an idea now. So if they want to call now, give me a call. I've got some ideas. But in the beginning, we didn't really know. But that's changed. We found our stride, and we enjoy it. It's unique. It's a unique something to sell. When we go to a conference, we go to a meeting, there's not 50 other companies doing what we're doing.
Right.
It's something unique. It adds value. It helps people win. And ultimately, I go home at night and sleep good knowing that I fought the good fight.
That's awesome, man. Very cool. So what's the tell me a little bit about the strategies you guys have in place to kind of get your messaging out there to other firms beyond I know
Sure.
you're going to conferences. I think and
Conferences. We
great.
do the conference thing, but that can become increasingly expensive.
Yes.
We do as many as we can. We try to spend our money smartly. We don't do $25,000 5-minute speaking engagements. I wish we could, but we do not.
Yeah.
So we have to think. We have to be faster and more agile than that. Put ourselves in the right position in front of the right people. It takes a lot of eyeballs in our business, because like I said earlier, somebody may only use us once or twice a year. Well, that's not enough to make a living off of or to run a business off of.
Right.
So what we really try to do is we try to be on LinkedIn. Our business is business to business. So we focus on that platform. We're members of Justice HQ community, which is kind of a legal focused kind of mini LinkedIn. It's growing by leaps and bounds, run by some fantastic people. We do some email campaigns, and then just word of mouth. People that have had a good experience with us. We ask for, hey, would you recommend us to someone? That's the greatest compliment you can get as a business owner, right? Is somebody to use their relationship capital to recommend you. And we've been fortunate to have that a few times.
So a lot of referral bases.
A lot of referral bases.
Cool.
We do a little bit of stuff on Instagram, and that's really about it as far as socials go. But I think we've grown a lot on the LinkedIn platform, and we really like that. And of course, the podcast. That's something new. It allows us to reach out and actually, touch the people that are directly our customers. And somebody may hear this and say, hey, I'm going to remember those guys. I don't have anything right now, but maybe a year from now. And that's usually what happens. A year from now, somebody says, hey, I remember you. You had this, we had this podcast that I watched, and, I saved your information.
When you talking about podcasts, do you guys have your own podcast or
no? But I wish we would. I would love to do a podcast.
Well, we're gonna have to talk, my friend. We're gonna have to talk. We can help you guys out with that for sure.
Yeah,
but
let's do it.
For sure.
I have some ideas. I feel like I'm a pretty creative person. I was an advertising major like 100 years ago.
Oh wow, okay.
So I feel like the creative side of it is something that I really, really enjoy.
Yeah.
So I'd like to, bring a few of these ideas in. I wouldn't want subject anyone to a 15 to 20 minute infomercial about my product, but I feel like I can get some people to talk a little bit.
No, I'll tell you,
maybe squeeze in a little business here and there.
you know, the name of the show is Partnerships for Profit, and it's really more about the partnerships necessarily than the profit. The partnerships can lead to that. But podcasting we have found it to be just an incredibly powerful networking tool, because it's, you know, just like you and I are doing right here. I'm giving you a platform to kind of talk about what you guys are doing and how you're helping people. And it's just, it's a great way to facilitate relationships and get people into your ecosystem. So I can't recommend starting a podcast highly enough for you, but that's another conversation for another time. We're going to wrap it up here in just a minute. I want to ask you about one last thing that you mentioned before we got on recording, which kind of perked my ears up because I'm always interested in weird stuff like this. You said you worked on a case for Michael Jackson's estate, which is a wild estate. If you know anything about Michael Jackson, there's monkeys and giraffes and amusement parks and elephant man bones and all kinds of weird crap like that. So talk to me a little bit about that experience. I just kind of want to hear, like, how do you get connected to Michael Jackson's estate? What's the story behind that?
We had only been in business probably about 6 months, and we had an attorney call us and said, "Hey, we're working on a case against. We actually have 2 cases pending against Michael Jackson's estate. We'd like to find some people that worked at Neverland Ranch."
Neverland, okay.
And so we said, "Absolutely, we can do that." So kind of outside of our usual areas, like we were talking trucking earlier, you know, like it's a little bit different. Truck drivers and dispatchers, and so we went in with exactly. So we went in with an open mind, and said, what's the criteria? What job titles? No job titles. Just we want people that work at the ranch. So we cast a pretty wide net. They were looking for people that had seen, activities at the ranch that were involved with the case.
Sure.
And that could have been anywhere. So the search came back, and it was very unique compared to others that we've done. It had primate trainer. It had reptile specialist. We had chauffeur. We had some regular stuff in there. We had chauffeur. We had chefs. We had servers from the ranch. But it's not very often that we get something back that says associate primate trainer. Yeah. So that's unusual for us. Tell us about what the monkey said at the ranch, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's Bubbles, right? Bubbles was Michael's
Bubbles
monkey.
Lived there for a while, I believe.
Yeah, wow, that's
crazy. I wish we had these great stories that play out like every private investigator TV show out there.
Yeah,
it's most of the stuff we do is very mundane. It's very mundane,
but it's very
useful. These 10 cases.
Absolutely 100% useful. You did mention that before we came on.
We take these cases from negligent to gross negligent. We add value to these cases. We want to take it from X to XX, and we deliver that. Very
cool. I love what you guys are doing. I think it's fantastic. I love that we're connected kind of in the same world. We work with a lot of PR lawyers as well. Ours is more on the marketing side and branding and that kind of thing. But love that you guys are helping to make a difference for people. I think that's great stuff.
I mean, it's a good feeling,
100%. We have a pretty big network of attorneys that we work with and that check out our content and everything. So let's make sure you let people know where they can find you, how they can get in touch with you. I want our audience to know that.
Sure. So website is spearinvestigations.com, like spear, like I'm throwing a spear. And we're on LinkedIn. We have Spear Investigations is the LinkedIn. Mike Seeley, I have my own private LinkedIn. My business partner, Connor McDuffie, he's on LinkedIn as well. Not as much as I would like, but he's on some too. That's because I know he's watching. But so we're in that's usually where you can find us. It doesn't take many searches to be able to find Spear Investigations.
We'll have to get Connor on the show too. You can wrangle that for us. We'll get him in.
He's a trip. He's a trip. He's a new dad, so his time is very valuable.
Sure, I get it. I got kids myself. So, well, Mike, this was fantastic, man. I really enjoyed getting to know kind of what you guys are doing, getting to know you a little bit.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate you putting us in front of some
folks. Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
I enjoyed it too.
And we'll connect off the call too, because I want to talk more about what you guys are doing and what we're doing, and maybe there's some connectivity there. So we'll connect about that. And next time you've got a you got to go track somebody down in like Zimbabwe or something, I want to know about it. We'll get you back on. Let's hear about
good, man. We'll do our best.
Partners to find a former employee. Let's hear.
That sounds good, man. We'll do our very best. Find something unique to talk about.
Perfect. All right, Mike. Thank you for joining us. Thank you out there for watching, whether you're watching live now or whether you're going to watch later on the recording. But we appreciate you guys checking out the show. I'm actually going to be back on in about an hour and a half with another guest, so I'll see you guys shortly. But thank you so much for tuning in for Partnership for Profits, and we will see you next time.
Thank y'all. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.